Look like Stephanie White is in serious trouble for getting swept by the Golden
Last
State
night was a mess. 75-63, right? Here are the standings. I told you guys, be aware. They hadn't updated yet. Well, here they are. The Fever are in the last place.
Indiana Fever are stuck at the bottom of the standings, and frustration is spreading quickly. But here's the twist. Most of the criticism aimed at head coach Stephanie White isn't about bad plays, poor lineups, or questionable rotations.
Peterson, after we heard yesterday from Scott Agnes, and by the way, I have a weird feeling that this organization is just as secretive with their media as they are with their fans. I think they're just secretive with everything. I think they're absolutely, positively secret with everything. But Caitlin Clark has in fact returned to an extent. She has returned to an extent with the Indiana Fever. Look, Caitlin Clark is far from back.
The real controversy isn't about strategy, it's about honesty. Fans are outraged because they feel Stephanie White isn't being truthful, especially when it comes to injuries. Caitlin Clark has become the center of this storm, but it's not just about players being hurt. The bigger issue is how the information is being handled. Silence, vague statements, and constant contradictions are pushing fans to the edge. Week after week, supporters ask the same questions, and week after week, they feel misled with half-truths.
Fever Valkyries game was a bit of a painful watch, starting with the clock. The delay that just had both teams go back to their locker room, that made it for a bit of a painful experience. And then if you're rooting for the Indiana Fever, obviously, it was a painful experience until the end, watching all those bricks and then the Valkyries pull away. But the first half took like 2 hours. So that was part of the problem. And then on top of that, the Valkyries built up a big lead in the game. Now, the Fever had chances. The Fever had chances to come back and actually win.
When fans feel they're being treated like fools, patience doesn't just wear thin, it snaps. That's why the big question now is whether Stephanie White is truly protecting her players or simply dodging the truth. The Fever season has been rough from the start, with losses stacking up and the scoreboard rarely in their favor. But here's what really matters. The outrage taking over message boards and social media isn't about the losing streaks. It's about the way the team communicates.
It was an awful experience last night. Between the WNBA and their shot clock issues, like this was the California Penal League trying to play basketball, the local YMCA, honestly, YMCA may have their shit together better than that was last night. And, of course, Aaliyah Boston, no shows, gives us 4 points. And Natasha Howard packing a bag and throwing it over her back and proceeding to travel around the country.
Fans are less upset about players missing games than they are about being left in the dark, confused and misled. They keep hearing the same robotic lines. She's day-to-day. We'll reevaluate tomorrow. We're monitoring it. But when tomorrow comes, nothing changes. The cycle repeats, frustration builds, and patience quickly turns into anger.
Bench Natasha Howard. If a player's struggling, and by the way, what's the deal with Chloe Bibby, Stephanie White? You claimed she didn't have a setback. But when you go from able to play, available, to not able to play, and there was no game that she actually played in, that would be called a bleeping setback. All right, so
center of everything is Caitlin Clark. She's not just another young player in her second season. She's the WNBA's biggest star. The face of the league, the name that sells jerseys, fills arenas, and boosts TV ratings. When she first went down earlier this season, fans were told it was a minor groin issue that should heal with rest. That's when people started expecting clear and honest updates. But those updates never came. Instead, the story kept shifting. 1 week she was day-to-day, then a game-time decision. That was 6 weeks ago. And 6 weeks later, she still hasn't played. Reports have contradicted each other. One moment she's sprinting full court, the next she's only jogging. Then new rumors appeared about an ankle injury that was never mentioned before. So which is it? Groin? Ankle? Both? The story seems to change depending on who you ask, and fans feel less informed and more misled. That's where trust breaks down. How do you go from being a game-time decision to sitting out for 2 months? If the injury was serious, why not say so from the start? Fans would have understood. But instead, they feel deceived. And it's not just Clark. Sophie Cunningham had surgery with almost no details. Chloe Beebe was spotted at practice in slides while Clark wore sneakers, confusing fans even more. Odyssey Sims left a game with what was only called a tweak. To this day, no one knows what that meant. It's not one isolated case. It's a pattern of secrecy. Fans don't expect every medical detail, but they do expect honesty. Calling something day-to-day for 60 straight days feels insulting. And once fans feel disrespected, the bond between team and supporters starts to crumble. The media hasn't helped either. Reporters rarely push for answers, avoiding the league's biggest storyline. That silence makes fans even more suspicious and opens the door for wild rumors. Everything from Clark being secretly out for the season to hidden conflicts inside the team. With no clarity, speculation spreads like wildfire. This isn't just about the Indiana Fever. It affects the whole WNBA. Clark drives ticket sales, TV ratings, and merchandise. When she's absent, the league slows down. Mishandling her injury damages not only the Fever's credibility, but also the league's image at a time when it's finally growing. The solution is simple: honesty. A straightforward update like, Clark has a groin strain. She's rehabbing. We'll reevaluate in 3 weeks, would calm fans. They might not like the news, but they'd respect it. Instead, they get recycled cliches that sound hollow. Stephanie White, the Fever's coach, is now facing a serious credibility problem. Once fans believe you're lying about injuries, they start doubting everything: lineups, strategies, even locker room culture. That's dangerous territory for any coach, and the players suffer too. When Clark returns, every grimace or awkward step will be questioned. Fans won't just celebrate her comeback. They'll wonder what's being hidden. The secrecy doesn't protect the players. It makes them targets of endless speculation. Fans want respect. They pay for tickets, jerseys, and league passes. They don't want riddles. They want clarity. Other leagues like the NFL and NBA require clear injury reports. The WNBA can't afford to look unprofessional with vague answers anymore. In the end, it comes down to trust. Is Stephanie White really protecting her players, or just protecting herself? Right now, most fans don't believe the privacy excuse. They see contradictions, not caution. And the longer this silence continues, the harder it will be to repair the relationship with fans. So, what do you think? Is White shielding her players or covering for herself? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you're tired of vague updates, and subscribe for more breakdowns like this. The season isn't over, but the trust may already